Welcome back in Sunday.
Yeah.
Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody enjoyed the football. We had some good games on Thursday. It was pretty good. The Friday game was okay. Not quite like I expected. Actually, not at all like I expected, but it is what it is. But we got a lot of games today. A lot of really good games. We have 5 or 6 games in this slate that have a 45 or above total. We haven't seen that a lot this year, so I just think there's a lot of really solid games to watch today. So I'm pretty excited about that.
A lot of good college games yesterday too.
Yeah. So let's get into it. We already got a lot of questions sitting here in the chat. So Scott Tobias was in here at 7:56 this morning. Love to see that. Good morning. A few questions. Start Hunter Henry, Andrews, or Disley. Start 2 from this group.
I'm going to go Andrews and Disley here.
Yeah,
take that with a grain of salt because Hunter Henry is one of the guys this year that I have never gotten right. Like anytime I've said to stream him on our waiver shows, anytime I've said to start him, I'm wrong. Anytime I say to sit him, I'm wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. But I like the game environment better for Andrews and Disley.
I agree. I don't mind Hunter Henry, but he's been just kind of frustrating. Like he sees 7 or 8 targets every week, but just doesn't do a lot with them. But opportunity is certainly there. But I love the matchup for Disley, and I also really like this matchup for Andrews, especially with Kolar out. I think it actually helps Mark Andrews quite a bit as well. So, yeah. And then a few questions. Oh, same question actually. Oh no, he expanded on
another one.
Start 2 from this group: DK, JT, Brian Robinson, and Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh wait, so I think the first one probably supposed to start 1, right, and then start 2 from the other one.
Oh, might be, yeah.
I'm gonna go. I think this sets up as I like Andrews, so I'm gonna go Andrews over Disley. And then it's going to be DK and JT for me out of the second group.
I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor and Brian Thomas Jr.
That's the other one in the conversation for me. Not on Brian Robinson. He's going to be one of the guys that I fade today.
Yeah, there's a lot of just discouraging comments made too by the coaching staff. I think yesterday as well. Kind of made it sound like that maybe he won't play as much. He's pretty banged up. They're also going on bye next week, so I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson just doesn't see a lot of as much work as we expect him to, even with Austin Eckler out. Austin Eckler was placed on IR, which means you can drop Austin Eckler because he's out for the rest of the season, at least regular for the fantasy purposes. He is, because he can't come back until week 18 because they have bye next week. That doesn't count against it. So then it's week 13, 15, 16, 17. So you can drop Austin Eckler. He is done for the year. But I think after their bye, though, it sets up nicely for Brian Robinson because then he should be a lot more healthier at that point moving forward. But I just can't play him this week if I don't have to. Good morning, Gus, Cooper, Ridley, half-point PPR. It's going to be Ridley for me.
Ridley.
And then Ramondre, White, Gus, Ridley, half-point PPR.
Still going to be Ridley for me.
Yeah. Good morning, Connor, Hubbard, need 1 standard. Thanks. It's going to be Hubbard for me.
Hubbard for me as well.
Michael Brown, start 2. Marvin Harrison, Ladd, Garrett Wilson, DK, or BTJ.
It's going to be Ladd and DK for me.
It's going to be Ladd and Garrett Wilson for me. I think both are pretty decent plays. Hopefully, anyway. It's the Jets. So, but, yeah. Chris, good morning. Need 1. DK, BTJ, or Moon full PPR.
It's gonna be DK for me, but I do really like Brian Thomas today.
Yeah, it's gonna be Brian Thomas for me.
At least one of us will be right.
Do I start Josh Allen considering the snow today? If not, I have Nix, Purdy, Richardson, or Murray available to grab. Thoughts? Thanks, gang. So the latest update on that game, I looked right before we started, and it's sounding better and better as the time goes by. So this was Kevin Roth, the meteorologist for Roto Grinders that we look at, and his update was after dealing with heavy snow most of the day Saturday, the main snow band is now pushing south of Orchard Park this morning. This should give volunteers plenty of time to get the stadium in good shape by Sunday Night Football. There's still a chance of some snow showers, but as I've been saying all week, the prospect of snowmageddon here is highly, highly unlikely, and there's a chance that they avoid snow altogether during the game hours. The more noteworthy weather here is the wind, which should be coming in at around 10 miles an hour, which isn't something that we should be that concerned with, but it could reach gusts of 20 miles an hour at times. Combined with somewhat breezy conditions, the temperatures in the upper 20s, we should see a minor impact for scoring in the passing game. I would not call it a high impact weather game whatsoever. So I would treat this game like you would any other game. I wouldn't be worried about it at all. Unless something changes, it is snow lake effect. You can check again. About 5 or 6 o'clock tonight before the game starts. But right now, it looks good to go. I would not be concerned with it whatsoever. Don't let it bother you.
Yeah, I would go Allen. And like you said, if that does end up happening, it looks like he'll be able to switch to Nix if something pops up and something changes. So
yeah, and Brock Purdy is also back for this game too. Just
I'd be staying away from Purdy if I could this week.
I would play Nix over Purdy. So I agree. I was just stating that he is playing. So that's at least better news for the pass catchers. And then Chris, one more question: Ingram or Otten? This is going to be Ingram for me.
Ingram for me as well.
PPR flex Thielen or Chubb looking for ceiling play. This is going to be Thielen.
Yeah, we'll go Thielen.
And another one for EC, PPR open slot best stash or whole possible playoff value. Tajay Spears, Ray Davis, Adonai Mitchell. It's probably Ray Davis for me.
It's going to be Ray Davis for me as well. Once the Colts receiving room is fully healthy again, Mitchell just goes back to being like a 3 route per game kind of player.
Which is frustrating because he has been pretty he's flashed and he's a 2nd round pick. Obviously, you'd like to see a little bit more from him, but they are going on their bye this week, or next week. So for all acute purposes, it's Ravens, Texans, Broncos, Commanders, Patriots, and Colts all on bye next week. So Josh Downs should be back after their bye. Oh, wait, did we answer the question? I don't think we answered the question. I just completely skipped. Well, good morning. Rashad, Mooney, or Addison, half-point PPR. It's going to be Mooney for me.
Yeah, I'll go Mooney as well. I don't want to chase those Addison points from last week.
No, and I mean, to be fair, the last 4 weeks, the Cardinals have only allowed 2 passing touchdowns over the last 4 games, and they have been like a very, very good defense. Like they've allowed the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last 4. So I actually don't. That's why I've been on playing the Cardinals defense all week. Like I think this is actually a pretty good spot for the Cardinals defense this week. So I'm not that excited about playing Jordan Addison. You see lots of options here. PPR, tight end, half-point, premium. Flex 1, Ramondre Ertz, Hunter Henry, Disley, Adnight, Vele, or MVS. I'm going to go Will Disley.
This is between Disley and Ertz for me. And I lean Disley. I just think this could end up being a spot for Ertz. Bad matchup for the run game. Obviously, we talked about Brian Robinson banged up already. The Titans secondary has been pretty decent despite missing L'Jarius Sneed for the majority of the year. So this could be a spot where they lean on Ertz. I'm gonna go Ertz. Give me Ertz. But Ertz and Disley are neck and neck for me. So if it helps you, EC consensus, go Disley. But I do like Ertz in this spot now that I've kind of talked that out loud.
Don't mind Ertz. I just feel like he always has he's kind of a cap ceiling, where Disley has kind of shown a little bit of a ceiling. Really like the spot for Disley as well. It's a really good matchup.
Yeah.
High total. Like that Commanders game kind of worries me. It could just be kind of a gross game. The Titans are defense, like you mentioned, they've allowed like the third or fourth fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks this year, or at least through the passing game where they've struggled has actually been a little more on the ground. But yeah, so I think they've allowed the fewest. I was looking at this last night. They've allowed the fewest passing yards on the season, I believe, to quarterbacks. Yes, they've allowed just 2,000 passing yards to quarterbacks, which is the fewest by far. And then, but they're about middle of the road in passing touchdowns allowed. Where they've got has been on the ground. They've allowed 295 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So obviously that sets up better for Jaden Daniels, but I don't necessarily love it for the passing games here within this game. So I just slightly Disley. I love the matchup against Pittsburgh or against the Falcons. Generations X, Disley, Henry, or Pitts. This is going to be, again, just going down the ship with Will Disley.
Yeah, I think so. I would love this to say Pitts, but somehow, some way, Will Disley is safer. So who would have thought?
And then Dave, Ridley or Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I'm going to go Ridley here. But again, Hunter Henry and Marv have been two of the guys I have not gotten right.
Yeah, it's been tough with Marvin Harrison. Like, he's just been hasn't really produced the way we thought he would on a weekly basis, especially with the other pass catchers that are there. Like, I mean, it's been basically Trey McBride just getting absolutely peppered. McBride saw 15 targets last week, just absolutely peppered with targets for most weeks. Where Ridley's been seeing a 32% target share since DeAndre Hopkins has left. Like, I just think he's a much safer option, Calvin Ridley than is Marvin Harrison Jr. Blue knockout, just need one, DK or Flowers. I think he's going to
DK.
I might end up regretting this because I don't know if I've only said DK Metcalf's name like once. We've had a lot of DK Metcalf, but I'm going to go Zay Flowers.
Sorry, I couldn't help you there. Knockout.
It's just what so like that game environment for the Eagles and Ravens game sets up just great. Could be that game could be a nuclear game, like where it just goes out and you want to play all the players for that game, like we've seen in other games with the Ravens, like the Ravens and Bengals and stuff like that. It sets up a lot like that. So I really like Flowers. I don't mind DK. I just like the outside matchups have been worse for wide receivers against the Jets. The slot matchup has actually been a lot better, which is where JSN comes in. I love JSN today. DK, I just give him a little bit of slight bump or down because of it, because they have been still with Sauce Gardner and the other corner they have something slipping my mind, but they've been a lot better against outside than they have against inside. So that's where I'm not as excited about DK. I think he's fine. I think he's like a top 20-ish wide receiver. I just prefer JSN in that game, and then with Zay Flowers matchup, I'll go Zay Flowers. It's tough because I mean DK could easily just absolutely smash me for that, because I mean he obviously has huge upside. I like JSN a little bit more. Noel again, Ramondre or Rashad White, half-point PPR. With it being a half-point PPR, I'm going to go Ramondre.
Yeah, I'll go Ramondre. It worries me a little bit that we saw Antonio Gibson enter the fold again last week, even before that game got out of hand. But if Bucky's going to start running more routes than Rashad White, that's really going to hurt him. So I think the Pats keep this close. I think that offense bounces back. So I'll go Ramondre.
Yeah. And then another one from him, Colts, Vikings, or Broncos kicker. So Will Gay, John Parker Romo, or Will Lutz. It's easily Will Lutz for me. He's top 5 kicker for me this week.
I trust you.
Disley or Hunter Henry. We've already had this one. This is going to be Will Disley.
God.
Morning, gentlemen, from Muhammad. Do I play Mooney or Debo?
I'm just glad Muhammad's back after we fucked up his start set last week.
Yeah, I think it was what, Cortland Sutton. I don't think that we went with. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, Sutton versus Marv.
Yeah.
Glad you're back. I appreciate your trust in us. Either that or you're coming to fade us. Either way. Thanks for coming back.
I would, you would think it'd just be easily Debo Samuel, right? But he just has been unlucky. He's had some big plays called back to the penalty this year, which has been a theme for a lot of wide receivers this year. And two, he just hasn't really popped. I mean, this year, he's had a couple decent games, but he hasn't been the guy that we thought, especially once Brandon Ayuk went out. I think a lot of people would have thought that he would have really went off, but he just hasn't. I'm
gonna go Debo, but I don't feel particularly great about it.
I'm going to go Darnell Mooney. I'm probably going to be wrong, but again, love the spot for Darnell Mooney. Fantastic matchup for him. The Charger secondary has actually fallen off quite a bit in recent weeks, but I just really like the spot for Mooney. I just love that game. I love that game environment. I think that's another game that could go off. Really high scoring game. So I'm going to go Mooney here on that one. And I could end up really regretting it, but at least one of us is going to be right. Christopher, Taysom Hill or Brian Robinson, the flex. I'm going to go Taysom Hill.
Taysom, baby.
Chris Erickson, flex help, Bateman, Westbrook, Vidal, or Jeremy McNichols. Also, Nix or Murray. I'm going to go with Bateman.
It's going to be Bateman and Murray for me. It's really close.
Yeah. I'm going to go Bo Nix.
I don't hate it.
I just think the matchup sets up a little bit better for Nix against the Browns than it does for Kyler Murray in this spot. This is one of the remaining games left on the Cardinals schedule that I don't necessarily love the Cardinals, but after this, we are wheels up on the Cardinals after this week. Then the dreaded one. Got a bench one. Sutton, Marvin Harrison, JSN, or Ramondre.
I would bench Ramondre.
I think I would too. I think that's the one that I would go with. Because I'm not sitting Sutton, and I'm damn sure not sitting JSN. Love both of those.
Yeah.
It's between Marvin Harrison and Ramondre. But there's always a scenario with Ramondre, like you mentioned, where they all of a sudden go with the hot hand. And it could be Antonio Gibson or, where it's not. Or if they fall behind, it really hurts Ramondre a lot.
Yep.
Where you're not really worried about that with the others. So, yeah. Alejandro McLaurin, Stevenson, and Ladd pick 2. It's going to be McLaurin and Ladd.
Yeah.
Also, McBride or Pitts. This is easily McBride. He's my number 1 tight end this week.
McBride.
Was feeling good about Dallas D/Reed.
There's
yeah, until Achane, Tua, and Bowers played.
Yep.
The one that really surprised me, Bowers one didn't surprise me. The Chiefs are terrible against tight ends. They have been all year. That one didn't surprise me. It was the Tua one that kind of surprised me. as well. I mean, he played really well. I mean, that was certainly not his fault they lost that game. I mean, he threw over 300 yards, threw a couple touchdowns. Like, Tua played really well. Alejandro Richardson or Kyler Murray? This is Anthony Richardson for me.
I'm going to go AR as well.
And then Chris Flex PPR, Goddard, Jennings, or Warren. Also Stroud or Nix. I'm going to go Jennings and Stroud.
I'm going to go Goddard if Devonta Smith is out. And it looks like he will be. So I'm going to go Goddard and Stroud. Jennings would be my second choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some concern with Brock Purdy, but if Brock Purdy's playing, I just have to imagine that he's good and he's ready to go. And just the way Jennings has played with Brock Purdy has been awesome. He's been such a significant target share, so I just don't want to sit him. So yeah, but I get it. It does really help Goddard too with Devonta Smith out. One more at tight end: Hockenson, Ingram, or Ertz. Really love all three of these, but it's going to be Ingram for me.
I lean Ingram as well. I have him Ingram, Hawk, Ertz.
And then from Chris again, Westbrook or Shakir PPR. This is going to be Shakir.
We go Shakir. I mean, NWI has to stop scoring touchdowns at some point, right?
Yeah, on his 2 or 3 targets he's hitting a game. Fang with the snow Nami. Would you bench Kittle? No. I'm sure that came in after I read that off, but if it didn't, this game is no longer a game we really should be concerned with. It's not going to be Snowmageddon or a Snownami game or anything like that. From everything that I've seen, from people who study this, have said that it looks like there's going to be no snow during the game. It's a possibility there could be some, but right now it looks like there's even a possibility there's none during the game. So it is not really anything to what people have tried to make it out to be. So I am perfectly okay with playing the passing game here. 10-mile-an-hour winds. We're good to go. Fire up your pass catchers, your quarterbacks within this game. And so I would not bench George Kittle.
Yeah.
Though I really do like Will Dissly. Chris, Pitts or Dissly? It's going to be Dissly.
Dissly.
Rupp, what's up, guys? How's it going today with the crazy weather? Buffalo, should I still keep Jennings as my flex or put in Evan Ingram since Lawrence is back? Already have Taysom at tight end. That's tough no matter what the weather is because I really like Evan Ingram. Especially with the very, very limited pass catchers they have with just being Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram, basically. I mean, Parker Washington and I believe Devin Duvernay is also going to be activated for that game, as well. I believe he's on the Jags. But so I mean, it's possible Ingram sees like 15 targets today. Like we've seen this before from especially with Trevor Lawrence, where he just sees a massive amount of targets.
I'm gonna go Ingram, and it has nothing to do with the weather. I just really like this spot for Evan Ingram. Buffalo's secondary has been playing pretty well. They're basically a run funnel type of defense. Not sure if that's going to matter with CMC in the way that he has looked, but should be a game. I mean, divisional games are always a crapshoot, but should be a game where the Jags are trailing, and it's going to be Evan Ingram and Brian Thomas both getting 8+, 10+ targets in this one.
I'm going to agree. It worries me so much with sitting Juwan Jennings, but
yeah, doesn't feel great, but
I think I agree. I think there's too much upside with Evan Ingram. James, Taysom or Hunter Henry? It's going to be Taysom.
Taysom.
And Brees Hall, Chase Brown, and Walker all over James Cook. Yes. Yeah.
I would debate Brees Hall. But I think with the Niners being at, I mean, not full strength, but having all their starters in, I would lean that way. I do like James Cook this week, though.
Yeah, I don't mind James Cook. I think he's like a top 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range running back for me. There's no way I'm sitting Chase Brown, and there's no way I'm sitting Kenneth Walker, and then it would
Yeah.
come down to Brees Hall, but Brees Hall still has a pretty significant upside. I know he's some weird injury there. Um,
Yeah.
there's stuff that came up about his knee. Like I don't really understand what that was all about, especially coming off the bye. But yeah, I'm okay with sitting James Cook in that spot. And also, if you haven't already, and if he happens to be sitting out there, I think it just makes Braylon Allen, especially with that little knee issue with Brees Hall dealing with whatever it is, makes him like a mustache because especially if they, it's possible at any moment here that they could shut everybody down, or most of these guys down, and if so, Braylon Allen could end up in the fantasy playoffs, just being like a league winning type if they decide to do so. James, Garrett, Higgins, London start 2. Oh Lord.
I'm gonna go Higgins in London.
Yeah, I think so, man. There's a little bit that I'm starting to get a little nervous about with Higgins because I'm actually starting to wonder if Joey Porter is going to shadow T Higgins, not Jamar Chase here. I was looking at some of the stuff like in the games that he's actually shadowed wide receivers. It's been the X wide receiver, which is T Higgins. This is also just like schematically not the best matchup for T Higgins as I've looked more into this. The Steelers have oddly play a very high amount of single high safety. They're one of the few teams in the league that still play it at a really high rate, and they do so. Doesn't matter the matchup; they just continue to play it. They don't really care. And Higgins has actually performed worse against that coverage than what Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase has been phenomenal against it, but T Higgins hasn't been great against it. So it's actually a little bit of a with those factors, like I'm a little less, but at the same time, with the way T Higgins has played this year, he's been phenomenal. He's been seeing such a high target share, and still some of these things could change. I mean, they still could easily shift that. I mean, it's not a lock for any of these things. So, just with the game environment and everything else, I think I agree. I would go Higgins in London, but there is something in the back of my mind that worries me a little bit about T Higgins. But I think I agree. And then standard league, who do I start in the flex? Brian Robinson, Najee, Devonta Smith, or Devon Vele?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Devonta's going to play. So in a standard, I would go Najee here. I don't love it. Like I said, I'm fading Brian Robinson this week. Smitty not playing. And in a standard league, I think Najee has more touchdown upside than Vele.
Yeah, it doesn't sound great first, man. Rap Sheet tweeted out overnight basically Devonta is listed as questionable, but he's going to try to work out before the game. But there's not a lot of optimism in Philadelphia that he'll be able to go. So I think I would just go Najee and fuck it and hope for the best. It should be Brian Robinson, right? Like that should be the easy call because of Austin Eckler out, but there's just a lot of concern there with that in that situation, and really the matchup for that matter against the Titans. So I think I agree with you. EC Jonathan Brooks for the stash. No, I think he's easily droppable. I don't think you really need him. If there's other options out there. I would just drop him at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Chuba is just seeing a ridiculous usage rate. I mean, 85, 86% of the snaps. He's seeing the majority of the touches, pass catching work. Like Brooks is going to mix in a little bit. And I guess there's a scenario you could say, well, if he got hurt, but at this point, I don't think they would change his role because he's coming off the injury. They're obviously not going anywhere. They're not going to the playoffs. Like I don't see a scenario where Jonathan Brooks gets a lot of touches this year, especially in the scenario that they're sitting in. So I think there's much better just stash handcuff backs that I would rather have than Jonathan Brooks. This is going to be Addison or Hawkinson PPR for Ken. This is going to be Hawkinson for me.
Hawk.
And then
Ken, who are you starting at tight end? Just curious. Because Hawk is one of my favorite plays at tight end this week.
Yeah. And then Taysom, London, or McLaurin at flex, pick 2. This is going to be the first 2 for me.
Yep. That's where I was going as well.
RCA, full PPR, play 1, McLaurin, Marv, or Ridley. Thanks. This is going to be Ridley.
Ridley. What could go wrong?
Ken, Herbert or Burrow? Oh, boy.
This is going to be Herbie for me.
I'm going to go
It
Burrow.
worries me, but I just like that matchup for Herbert a lot more.
Yeah, but that Bengals offense. He's averaging like over his last 4 games, 350 yards and 4 touchdowns a game. Over his last 4. Like we're not
he's been great. I just think the Steelers might be able to get after him a little bit more than the past few games.
No, for sure. And I mean, it is a divisional rivalry game.
AFC North, yes.
We got excited, about the Ravens and the Steelers a few weeks ago, and that turned out to be a pretty big dud across the board for most of the players. So that's certainly in the range of possibility. So I don't hate it. I mean, Herbert obviously has been phenomenal recently as well. So it's so close for me. I have literally one after the other. So I have Burrow at 5, and I have Herbert at 6. So like it is really close between the two of them. So I don't mind that. And then Burrow or Hurts, this is Jalen Hurts.
Hurts.
RCA, full PPR, play 1. Taysom, Disley, or Pitts. This is Taysom.
Taysom. I would have him ranked the way that you have them listed out, RCA.
Agree too. Yeah. And then Luis, Stroud, Dell combo over Knicks. Lead upside. Opponent has Dallas D and Aubrey. Yeah, I would go Stroud Dell. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're already playing Dell because you have to or whatever reason, I would go that way, but I wouldn't force Dell in just because you're playing Stroud. So I'd also be curious of like what the rest of your lineup looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I still think Tank Dell's like a top 30 wide receiver this week. But yeah, I'd be interested in that. But yes. You couldn't ask for a better get-right spot for the Texans than the Jaguars. The Jaguars' defense has been pretty much a mess outside of the game against the Vikings. But for the most part, this has been a really good spot for most teams. So, I have no respect for the Dolphins. They are a mess. I mean, I think that injury to Tua really killed them. I mean, it really kind of killed their season. And you would have thought they would have learned their lesson from this already if they would have had like a competent backup ready to go. But they didn't, and it just continues to be a problem for them that they just have just been negligent when it comes to a backup quarterback. There's so many options you could have had out there just sitting there waiting. Like you could have, signed Joe Flacco or somebody like that could have kept the offense moving to a point to where you could, you're not losing every game because your quarterback situation is awful. And I think they would have been I think they would have been better off. So they have the weapons. I will say some of the stuff has been weird, but they've also switched just the way they play. They're not taking deep shots anymore. I mean, Tua hasn't been doing any of these things. It's been all underneath stuff. That's why we're seeing Jonnu absolutely smash every single week because that's all they're doing is just, they're kind of doing what the Chiefs have been doing and a lot of these other teams have switched to. So, yeah, hate to see it. Maybe they'll learn the lesson this year and actually draft or sign a backup quarterback this year. So in case something happens to Tua next year.
Yeah.
Alejandro Gonzalez, Romo, Folk, Cardi, or Koo. Take a look. It's going to be Zane for me. Yeah, I have Zane at 8.
Okay.
No input. You know, Ken, Houston or Eagles D? I'm gonna go with Houston.
We'll go Houston as well. And you're the one that grinds the kicker stats and the kicker rankings, so I
Yeah,
try.
I've actually already started. I started for next week already. I did that. I don't know why. I woke up super early this morning. I was so excited for football. So like I woke up at like 5:15 in the morning this morning. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do. Let's start preparing for today and then next week.
Let's dive into kicker rankings.
Yeah, I did. So I started looking into the kickers for next week, defenses for next week. So yeah, because I mean, with 6 teams on bye, there's going to be a lot of people out there once again, which is just the worst. I really hope the NFL changes this after this year because, like, I mean, you know how annoying it is to have 16. I would be so pissed, like if you're like, because like if your team's like fighting for a playoff spot right
Yeah.
now, and then you go into next week and like it's not like it's a bunch of bad teams. Like I mean, there's some really quality play. I mean, Lamar Jackson has been huge for most people all year. Him being on bye next week. I mean, Jaden Daniels is on bye. Bo Nix is on bye. C.J. Stroud's on bye. Anthony Richardson's on bye. A lot of these teams have been defenses we've been using for a lot this year. You know, the Broncos, the Texans are definitely the 2 defenses that so you have to find there. I mean, there's just a lot of different aspects to having a bye, this many teams on bye. So it sucks. Like it'd be the worst to lose because you don't have any other options this week. So
Yep.
Anyways, Houston. Oh wait, Michael, have Pacheco drop Hunt for Ingram. I mean, sure. If you need a tight end, but who would you have at tight end now? I guess.
Yeah, that's my question.
If it's a single onesie, where you can only start one tight end outside of flex, and it's not a tight end premium. I mean, I don't know if you need to, depending on your tight end option.
Yeah, depends on me who you have right now.
Yeah, but I will say, with the Chiefs and Pacheco, like you just immediately saw the difference between Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco was well more explosive, ripping off bigger runs. Like it's just, I think it's something that's just going to continue for Pacheco as we move forward. Steve Arnold, DK Metcalf, or Garrett Wilson? I think we're going to be split here. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson.
I'm going to go DK.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Steve Arnold, half-point PPR, Ingram or Disley? I'm going to go with Ingram.
Ingram, we're aligned there.
Jets or Vikings, D? I'm going to go Vikings.
Yeah. Go Vikings as well. Jets have just been so up and down.
Yeah, the Vikings defense has been super consistent. I think they've scored like 8 or more fantasy points in like almost every game but 1 or 2. So, I mean, they've been really good this year. Connor or BTJ? This is going to be Brian Thomas Jr.
BTJ for me as well.
Garrett, start Marv, B-Rob, or Rashad. The 3 players we all hate. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. here and hope for the best. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Marv as well.
Over on Twitch, who should I start? Herbert or Stafford or Josh Allen? Only because Josh Allen's part the weather. I'm going to go Josh Allen still.
I lean out as well. Elio, obviously you weren't here at the beginning, but it does not look like the weather in Buffalo is going to be bad at all. Looks like we have like some winds, but most of the snow is going to be done. Seems like, we could have some flurries, but this is not a quote unquote bad weather game. It does not seem so. I'm with Kev. I'm going to go Allen here. The other one, obviously, that would be in the discussion is Herbert, but
I mean, I think you can make a case for all three. I actually love all three of the, or I love Herbert and Stafford as well. I think they're all three top 10 quarterbacks this week. I have Allen at 3, I have Herbert at 6, and then I have Stafford at 10. So they're all really good plays. But I'm not jumping off Josh Allen in this game. And not to mention, we've seen Josh Allen still produce in bad weather games. I mean, like we've seen it in the past whenever they faced like the Patriots, some bad weather games, and he's still been able to produce. Like just because of his rushing upside that he possesses, that he can get there that way too, and get you rushing touchdowns and all that stuff. So I'm not afraid of playing Josh Allen, and I wouldn't hate to sit Josh Allen and he goes out and scores 30.
Yeah.
Michael Gill, Gus, Brian Robinson, Ramondre White, pick one, half-point PPR. This one I'm going to go with Brian Robinson.
Think I'm going to go Gus over B-Rob.
Just hope that with Brian Robinson, he has the potential where he could, get an early touchdown, stuff like he did last week, where he just kind of fell in the end zone and scored a touchdown. Half-point PPR. I think Ramondre would probably be the other one for me. I'm just not excited about Gus Edwards. He's not at all involved in the passing game, and he really has looked pretty bad all year. Anytime he's been given, I think last week he had 12 carries for 15 yards or something like that. And the Falcons have been better against the run than they have been against the pass. They are much more of a pass funnel than they are. So put in reverse, Terry. JSN, Zay, or Debo, full point PPR. My opponent has Lamar.
I'm going JSN. Little revenge game narrative for Gino. Kev,
That's
you were
true.
laying out the fact that the Jets have been more friendly for fantasy purposes to the slot versus outside receivers. Zay, I don't love the matchup for him. Debo, this should honestly, this should be a slam dunk for Debo, but just hasn't been for several weeks now. I keep banging my head against the wall with Debo. Like you said, he has been unlucky in some circumstances with getting plays called back and big plays at that. But I'm going to lean JSN here.
Yeah, I agree. Appreciate that, Terry. Daryl, good morning, Evan Ingram or Hawkinson. This is going to be Evan Ingram.
Yeah, that's really close. I will go Ingram.
And then Connor or Nick Chubb. I'm going to go Connor here.
Connor for me as well.
And then at flex, Juwan Jennings or Garrett Wilson.
Oh.
I'm gonna go Juwan Jennings.
I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson. But that's not with a ton of confidence.
So I will say this, Daryl, that the only thing that does concern you or should concern you with this situation is just Brock Purdy's health. I know that the 49ers are pretty much in they have to win this. They need to start getting some wins if they're even going to have a shot at making the playoffs. So it's possible that they're just rushing Purdy back just because they have no shot with anybody else. And so it is concerning that he takes the wrong hit, something happens, and he gets ruled out again, which would then currently sink Juwan Jennings. But if he is good to go and he's fine, then I just think logically the way Juwan Jennings has played, then it's Juwan Jennings to me. So that's where my lean is. I think Garrett Wilson's probably the safer play, which is crazy to say because of the way the Jets have been. But it's just that slight concern. But I'm more of a risk taker, and I feel okay with shooting for upside, just thinking that Brock Purdy's fine, and go with Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that too. That's not a huge difference for me. I just slightly lean Wilson because, like you said, of the potential health issue.
And also, Elio, again, should I start Zach? I'm assuming Zach Ertz or George Kittle. It would be Kittle for me.
Kittle.
I have Kelsey, but with their record, I'm worried with him sitting him the last couple of weeks, save him for the playoffs like last year with week 18. I don't know about the last couple of weeks. It's a long time for him to sit. It also really depends on the number 1 seed because they're still fighting for that. They're going to continue to play things out until they get that locked up. And the Bills' schedule is tough moving forward. Like they're the next closest team that really has a shot of taking it from them. For the Chiefs, but they have to play the 49ers obviously tonight. They got the Rams next week, and then they have the Lions, where the Chiefs have the Chargers next, and then they have the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers. It could still kind of go either way of how this is going to go. The Chiefs seem to be playing with black magic every week with the way that they're able to somehow. This is the second week in a row that I was like, yeah, they're cooked, and I actually was like, yeah, I'm done. They lost. Like the Raiders were moving down the field. They were right there with the field goal range. I was like, this is done. And all of a sudden, I hear the announcers go crazy, and I turn back around and I start walking. I go back downstairs. I start looking again. I'm like, did that just happen? Did that just happen? They just.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this last week for me was one of the ones where I'm on the side of the people who are out there saying it's fixed for the Chiefs. I've never really bought into that because we're talking about different referees and you know what I mean, all that stuff. When I saw that one, I was like, Jesus Christ. If you're the NFL and you want to dispel any of those notions, that's not the way to do it in that spot.
Well, the thing is the call was right. The penalty call was absolutely right. That is exactly what the penalty should have been because the clock was stopped, and so then it's an illegal shift, and then so it's a live ball. And so all that counts. That was not dispelled. That is not the refs did something for the Chiefs. It was, I don't know what they were doing and why he called for the ball because he clearly was clapping, calling for the ball. The right guard taps the center to snap, and so he snapped it, and he clearly wasn't ready for it. So it was on them, 100%. It was on the Raiders, but I don't know what the hell they were doing there in that situation. And also just the way that but also why were you even running a play at that point? Just kick the field goal at that point because with no timeouts, there's plenty of things that could have went wrong in that scenario. Just kick the field goal. I get it that their kicker wasn't in a good spot, but the extra 5 or 6 yards you might have picked up. What they said they were going to do was they were going to hike the ball and then just throw the ball out of bounds, try to waste more clock. And I'm like, why? There's so many bad things that could have happened in that scenario. Even if it wasn't that. So some of that was not on the Chiefs, but obviously since it's the Chiefs, people are always gonna point to it and be like, what is going on? This looks completely rigged. But it's also just really bad game management by Antonio Pierce. But I also get it. But yeah, there's been multiple times this year that I thought they should have lost. And they 1000% should have lost that game. They should not have won against the Raiders. And they're somehow getting with it. Which makes me nervous that I guess maybe that this could end up coming to head in the playoffs where they actually lose a game that they shouldn't have because all their games been so close. But so they've been last year. Last year, almost all of their games were by 1 score or less. I mean, it's just not how they play. It's super frustrating. So, anyways, Charles, good morning. Burrow or Herbert? I'm leaning Burrow. I'm going to be Burrow. Cody's going to be Herbert. So do that with as you may, but I do like Burrow a little bit more than Herbert.
It's close.
Yes, as I have Burrow at 5 and I have Herbert at 6. It is extremely close between the two of them. Start Jalen Warren, Jordan Addison, or Michael Pittman. This is going to be Michael Pittman.
Let's go.
Finally get a Michael Pittman question. I don't know.
Finally.
Which one today?
Finally be able to say Michael Pittman as well.
Yeah, that's true. Normally it's not. Amari Cooper or DK Metcalf? I'd go DK on this one.
DK.
EC, Kamani Vidal worth that? I don't think so. I don't think that they particularly trust him all that much. It wouldn't really shock me if it was a three-way committee with Hassan Haskins as well. He didn't really do much in the first time that he was given us some opportunity. I think there's much better stashes than him. And it does sound like Dobbins is not a long-term injury either.
Yeah, I mean, this would depend on who else is available, EC, and then who are you dropping. Like, I think he's like fine to potentially pick up today to see what happens, because last week we saw Hassan Haskins running a ton more routes and actually more snaps than Gus Edwards did. So if this is a case where Kamani Vidal can come in and like be that change of pace type back, like maybe he ends up jumping over them. Who else is available? EC. Like it would, if there's like if Blake Corum is out there, I'd rather stash Corum. So it would depend on who else is available. If you have like an open spot, I think he's fine to kind of just see how today shakes out. I think it's going to be a bit of a three-headed monster, or a three-headed headache, I guess would probably be the better way to say it. But it would depend on who else is available. Like I'd rather have Ray Davis.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because if something happens to James Cook, we already saw the upside with Ray Davis.
Yeah.
Massive. Like I don't envision Kamani Vidal coming in today and like taking over the backfield with Haskins and Edwards healthy.
Yeah, that Michigan love.
Yeah, thank you to Michigan. But
I could not believe they lost. I mean, Ohio State. They were 21-point favorites in that game?
Something like that. Yeah.
And Michigan was missing like two of their key pieces on offense and defense.
And the interceptions they threw, the mistakes they had.
I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw that they got into it. Like after the game, there was like a pretty big brawl because they tried.
We had a couple of those games. We had NC State and North Carolina get into it. Arizona State. We had some scuffles. But yeah, the end of that Ohio State Michigan game was wild.
They were not about to let them flag plant that Michigan flag again at the 50-yard line. But
no, but I love it, man. I love it.
I mean, does he get fired, Ryan Day? I mean, you kind of like it's kind of underwhelmed for the most part, and like, there's no reason they should have lost that game.
No, there's really not.
What's the Big Ten title game going to be? I haven't even looked.
Oregon, Penn State.
Did that knock out Ohio State out of the game?
Yeah, with that loss, because now that means Ohio State has 2 conference losses and 2 losses. Penn State only has 1 to Ohio State. So because of that, and with Penn State winning,
I will say, I saw that ESPN projected college football and they had Alabama back in it. So that made my blood boil. Like I'm like they should not be in the college football playoff. You don't get to get your ass kicked on the road by Oklahoma and be able and be a 3-loss team and be able to get in. And I'm an SEC guy, obviously, Missouri, and I, believe that the SEC for the most part is probably the best conference in football with all their teams and everything. But this is not one of those times. They do not deserve to be in this thing at all, and they're going to backdoor their way into it like they do every single time. And it is so frustrating. There are better teams that deserve to be in the college football playoff than Alabama. I'm sorry. I will die on that hill. It really irritates. Whoever they play, I hope just kicks the shit out of them because they have no business being in this, in my opinion. I think they should have fallen a lot further than they did when they lost that game. I feel like if that was another team, not Alabama, that would have lost that significantly to that bad of a team, then I think they would have fallen into the 20s, and Alabama fell to 13. And it was like, oh, here we go. They're just setting them up perfectly to be able to get them right back into it because they don't play anybody else. And so
same thing with Notre Dame losing at home to NIU. And now, they didn't get knocked down far enough. And I mean, we've had a ton of chaos in the, the top 5, top 10 to where Notre Dame would have been able to move back up. But I feel like after that loss, they should have been knocked out completely. But anyway, this is a fantasy football. Yeah, and the Vandy game too, Rob.
Yeah. Super. Oh, almost skipped Michael. Sorry, Michael. Bo Nix or Baker? This is Baker.
It's be Baker and Ingram for me.
Yeah. Love Njoku to this week too, but it would be Ingram for me. And that one as well. Caden, Nick Chubb or Jordan Addison? I'm going to go with Jordan Addison on this one. Don't love either one of them, but if I had to choose, I would go Jordan Addison.
Yeah. Lean Addison.
Because with Chubb, you're basically just hoping he falls into the end zone and score a touchdown. Because it's not a great matchup. The Broncos' run defense has been really good this year. It's just not great. If he was involved in the passing game, I probably would go Chubb. But
yeah.
And then Ashton Vele or Cooper. I'm going to go Amari Cooper here.
Cooper.
Maybe that's what we need to do. We need to spin off a college football show so we can talk about college football every week because we don't talk about it ever. But
not until draft season.
Yeah, which is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Should start getting all the who's committing or who's staying, who's going. Start getting some of the Senior Bowl stuff. It should start coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Transfer portal stuff is going to start here soon too. So should be fun. Sean, Nick Chubb or Jalen Warren? I will go Chubb on this one.
I'm gonna go Jalen Warren here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily.
I like the spot better. I think Warren's starting to look better than Najee. I think this could be if we want to do the narrative of the Steelers wanting to keep Cincy off the field, I think we could end up seeing like a heavier run game script for the Steelers.
Yeah. The other game we didn't even mention was the crazy ass Georgia Tech game with the 8 overtimes.
Yeah.
That was wild.
And then even Nebraska, Iowa coming down and having the Patrick Mahomes wannabe take a sack fumble at the end of the game. Then Iowa wins. And then Nebraska wasn't shaking Iowa's hands before the game.
You got to win that. If you're not going to shake somebody's hand before the game, you damn sure better win.
You better go out and spank that ass.
It really is weird with Raiola. The whole I get like it's like his like mentor. They work out together in the offseason and stuff, whatever. But like it's gotten creepy. Like all the stuff. He literally does everything that Mahomes does.
It's weird.
Dresses like him, does everything like him. Pre-game stuff is just the same. I'm like, come on, man. Like you can he could be like your mentor and like something you look up to, but you don't have to like cosplay him either, you know? Like be you. Anyways, Njoku or Taysom? I'm gonna go with Taysom here.
Swing for the fence with Taysom.
So, all right. Well, that looks like the last question in the chat. So I guess we will get out of here on that. A lot of questions today. A lot of really good football today. Oh, Purdy or Geno?
Geno.
Yeah, I think I agree. I want to see Purdy before I play him. It's not terrible, but I'd rather play him. Tight end premium, Disley or Shakir? It's going to be Disley for me.
Disley.
Start 2 wide receivers, 1 super flex, Garrett Wilson, JSN, Marvin Harrison, Devonta Smith, Derek Carr, Geno, Chase Brown.
DM. Truth, who else do you have at running back? And then we'll start going through some of the rest of these because would love to get Chase Brown in there, but I don't know if I want to play Chase Brown over Geno. So Geno would be my super flex. I don't think Smitty plays. So it'd be Wilson and JSN for me. But who else is starting at running back? Because I know
Bijan, and Jacobs. You already started Jacobs, so he doesn't have a choice. Man.
Probably still slightly going Geno over Chase Brown.
Yeah, I think I agree. That's tough. Because Chase Brown's
been so
good.
Yeah, it's been really good.
But yeah, I think you go Geno there. It's tough. I like the spot. Some things to look at with Geno. Actually, I've been digging. It's one of the games I dug into, and with the Jets. So the Jets have actually allowed. They've been terrible lately. So they allowed 29 fantasy points to Kyler, which was a ceiling game for him. They allowed 25 fantasy points to Russell Wilson. They also allowed 28 or 29 fantasy points to Anthony Richardson. All three of those are like ceiling games for those guys. That's just within the last 5 weeks. So it's not a bad matchup. They've also allowed the second highest passer rate over expectation over the last 5 weeks as well. And then you also have Geno and the Seahawks who really have thrown the ball at a really high rate this year. So it is tough because I absolutely love Chase Brown. So it worked out with Jacobs too. Obviously, playing him, he had a really strong game. Should I start Geno over Russell Wilson or Derek Carr?
Yes, for me, over both.
I think I would too. There's a lot of variance with Russell that could like the spot, like the matchup, but I think it could also just kind of go wonky as well, like we talked about, like with that game, how that game could go awry. Where I'm not as worried about it with Geno. So
Steelers have been really bad in the red zone. That's how you end up with Chris Boswell having higher fantasy points per game average than some receivers. But that's how that happens because they just have not been able to score.
Yeah. All right. For the second time. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Like I said, got some stuff to do. Got some lineups to build for DraftKings, DFS. If you guys got any questions, you can drop them into the chat. No, I would rather have Njoku over Taysom for the most part. Don't mind it, but I would rather have. Taysom is still very volatile. Like he definitely. Now there was a quote that came out from the head coach saying that they are going to try to get him to play way more of the snaps and think that they can get him up to like 70-80% of the snaps. So I definitely think that Taysom becomes more interesting in that point, but he is still very volatile. Where Njoku is getting a really strong target share every single week. Taysom Hill or Kittle? This is Taysom Hill.
I would go Kittle, but I get it.
I just have I have Taysom Hill as like a top 4 or 5 tight end this week. I have Kittle at 7.
Ooh.
Slick, Anthony Richardson or Murray? This is Anthony Richardson for me.
Richardson for me. I would not mind going Chase over Wilson and Carr.
Yes, I agree on that call. Chase Brown has just been so incredibly safe and it has such a massive upside with the way he's playing. Pollard or Metcalf?
A lot of Chris's today.
Yeah, must be Chris Day. This would be Metcalf for me. With Tajay Spears back, it really hurts Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's big ceiling games have come when Tajay Spears has been out. With Tajay Spears back, it makes me not like Tony Pollard as much. So I would go Metcalf here.
I would go Pollard. I get that with Spears coming back, but he's averaging and I mean, not that 8.5 isn't a big number, but I think there's also an outlier game in there with Spears getting 15 carries back in like week 4 or something like that. So I think it's probably more likely that Spears sees like 6, closer to 6 than he is to 9. And that would be Kyler for me over Daniels.
I would go Daniels here. It talked a lot about. I know but they have been thrashed by running quarterbacks, and so I think Jay Daniels had like 70 rushing yards last week. So I think he's back to being able to run the ball a lot more. And this is a pretty much win. This is a really pretty big game for the Commanders if they want to make the playoffs. Where they've been really struggling. Did we already answer this? Thought we already did. I'm pretty sure we both went Disley here.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Thanks for the help. No problem, Truth Teller. So that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate all the super chats. Appreciate the questions. We'll be back in tonight for the waivers, and it's going to be probably a pretty big waiver week just because we have 6 teams on bye. So there's definitely going to be some questions and some answers that we need to figure out. Again, hopefully everybody runs pure today. Hope everybody gets wins. Hope we don't have a bunch of injuries today because with 6 teams on bye next week, it can get pretty gross pretty quickly. So that being said, be sure to be back here tonight. We'll be going live during the halftime game of Sunday Night Football, and we will get all that, and then we'll be back at our normal schedule this week, getting out kicker and defense. You should be looking to play our top plays of the week at quarterback or running back and defense too. So if you haven't already, that is the link to the Discord. You can jump in there and you can get questions answered any time of the day. day or night, because that thing is always popping.
Yeah.
In the morning, super late in the morning, early in the morning, whatever, late at night, it's always going. So keep it locked in here. Appreciate the support. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.